In today's world of modern media, there exists a constant firestorm of bad news and controversy that overwhelms the internet and airwaves, served with a smile, right to your fingertips. And in these times filled with negativity and turmoil, it can be easy to succumb to the darkness which seems to surround us all. That's where I come in. My name is Miguel Mata, first-generation American, retired military veteran, and now full-time college student. In my lifetime, I've come to meet people from all walks of life, from every corner of the country and most parts of the world, and what I can tell you is, everyone has a story. On my channel, I plan to share those stories with all of you and prove that despite the differences that make each of us who we are as individuals, fundamentally, we are all the same. And I believe that through the common thread of overcoming challenges, caring for our loved ones, and helping our communities, the rest of us will realize that our world is actually much brighter than some would make us think. And now, to shed more light. This way, out. Hello, welcome back to another episode of This Way Out. Today, my guest is
Alfred Simmons Jr.
Alfred Simmons Jr., but people call you?
Al.
People call you Al. Al, where are we right now?
Right now we're in our house, Green Chapel Missionary Baptist Church in Charleston, South Carolina. We're on Poinsett Street, 36 Poinsett Street. And from the first time I got in here, I was at home. That's why I say our house.
Well, I'm here to tell you that as soon as I walked into this place, I could feel it. I could feel it. There was something, and I say there was something, but I know what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Almighty was pulling me in all kinds of different directions. I could feel my spirit just filling up this place. Okay.
Yes.
Al and I, we were in a class together at the College of Charleston, and it became pretty apparent to me that you are a special person.
Yeah,
you've got an interesting story. You didn't tell me. I didn't get all the details, but you and I would talk a little bit, say hello, and there just seemed to be like a little bit of a connection there, and it was like I gotta figure this. I gotta know what this guy's story is.
Yes.
It really did start way back when.
Yes.
And before this thing even started, I wanted to know like more about, Al Simmons. You put me on your prayer list.
Yes.
You've been sending me and many other people positive uplifting messages, and I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
But I kind of always knew that I wanted to sit down with you and talk to you and get to know you a little better. And now I'm glad that this piece of media or whatever, you can share a pretty awesome story, what I think is a story of hope, with whoever's watching right now.
Okay.
You are a deacon
Yes.
right here at this church.
Yes.
Has the Christian faith always been a part of your life?
Yeah, because my mother, like I said, we was talking earlier, my mother took me to church when I was a child, and I remember back, I was about 5 or 6 years old and just barely tall enough to look over the pew seat. But I remember being in that church, and it was an old church, and when they were shouting in there, the floor would bounce, and I felt that joy in there. So, that was always in there. And then through the years, I went through different processes of what happened. Like a couple of times, I used to smoke marijuana, and this guy who I thought was a friend of mine, he laced it. And so I started hallucinating, and I went to church, because I knew who God was, even though I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And so when I went there, all that stuff went out of me, and it's funny though, after I got better, it's like I went back to what I was doing.
Right.
It's
so
like
you haven't exactly been.
God was my safety net.
God was your safety net.
Yeah.
You always knew that God was your safety net.
Yes.
I guess I could say it that way.
Yes.
despite like all the
I
bad
always
stuff.
knew in my heart that no matter what went wrong, he would fix it.
Yeah.
And it actually started when I was 14, and I got sick. I had typhoid fever, pneumonia, inflammation around my heart, the measles, and a fever of 103. And when they rushed me to the emergency room, they put me in a tub of ice because that's how they cooled down fever back then. And then they put me in intensive care. And I was, back then they didn't have the oxygen for the nose, they had an oxygen tent. And I was in an oxygen tent, and I had an IV needle in both arms, keeping me alive. And so that was where I was. And then they brought me out of intensive care on the second floor. And one night I saw a vision of 4 preachers back then, one on each corner of my bed, that my mama used to look at. And I saw them praying for me. And that next day I started getting better. So I always knew that God was there. You know, no matter what I did or what I was into, I always knew he was there. Even though I didn't pray, I knew he was there. So,
you knew where you could go to find healing and to kind of reset.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I would get to this point where I hit a wall, and I go back to him so he can help me start over.
Isn't it interesting that you know, even though you would reset, and this would apply to you and apply to anyone, that you kind of get back on the horse, and then you fall off again. And you know, you mentioned that you were 14, and sick. Now that was out of your control, you know. But you had this experience, and you know that your faith helped you through this. And then 18, you had another experience where, what was that again?
Was smoking marijuana, and it was laced with some other drug.
Right, and the person that gave you that was a friend.
Was supposed to be a friend.
Right. So then you had an experience with
my apartment caught on fire.
In that same experience?
No.
Oh.
This was when I was 25.
So 14, 18, and now 25, your apartment catches on fire.
Yes. So I got drunk and I went to Miami, Florida. When I got down there, I thought I was running from the devil, because that night I woke up and my apartment was on fire. I was dreaming about this girl, and the voice said, "Leave that girl alone, she's driving you to hell."
Yeah.
And I wake up and my apartment's on fire.
So you went to Miami?
Yes. Yes.
What's in Miami?
I had always read how the fast life was in Miami, and so I wanted to be in that fast life.
You still wanted to live that life.
Yes.
So that was essentially your conflict. Like, you knew that your faith was strong. Your faith was strong within you.
Yes.
And it was kind of like a conflict. Like God was calling you.
Yeah.
But you wanted to stay attached. You wanted to experience this. You wanted this to be your life. You wanted this to be okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Now there was something, and you went to Miami.
Yes.
In search of that.
Yes.
There's something that you mentioned earlier today about your heroes.
I didn't have a big brother, and so my father weren't close. So my heroes became people of the street, hustlers. Iceberg Slim, the Mac, Shaft. People that I saw in the movies and read about in books. The thing about them was always how to use their wits. And so I wasn't a violent person, but if I had to fight, I would fight. But I always used my wits.
Right.
And so that's, matter of fact, one girl told me one time, she said, "Oh, you can talk your way into anything you want."
Into anything?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
She said it like that.
But these guys were your heroes.
Those were my heroes, because they relied on themselves.
Right, I got it.
And so they used the strength that they were blessed with. They never thanked God for it, but that's what they were using, what they were blessed with.
Right.
And so I did that.
Right.
I had charisma, I had charm, I had the gift of gab, but I didn't use none of it for God's glory.
Right. But at the time,
right.
You know, these were the guys that you were trying to emulate. You were trying to be a Shaft or a, what was the other one? I'm sorry.
Iceberg Slim.
Iceberg Slim.
Mac.
Yeah. I wonder why I've never heard of these people. But I had my own heroes, you know.
Yeah.
I had my own people that I looked up to, you know. Personally, you know, like Pancho Villa was a bit of a hero for in my house.
Okay.
I know that I had relatives that fought in Pancho Villa's army in the Mexican American War in that time. So, you know, I had Pancho Villa and Los Tigres del Norte and Edward James Olmos, you know. but those are the people that I kind of looked up to. So I just find it interesting. I think what else is interesting is that, you know, when you were reading these books, when was that? Like what years were that? How old were you?
1974 is when it all really. No, 1972 is basically when it got started, because I forgot what it was. Oh, my mother took me to see Superfly.
Okay.
And from Superfly, I wanted to know what it was to be a pimp, because he was a drug dealer.
Right.
But in that movie, there were pimps and all kind of hustlers in that movie. So that was me.
Yeah.
That was what I wanted. I wanted that lifestyle. I wanted to be able to do as I pleased, when I pleased, with who I wanted to do it with.
Right.
And that offered that door, you know. And then after that, I started meeting, well, my older sister. She was going with a guy who was a Marine and who was trained in the martial arts, and he was good looking and tall, and so that became another role model for me. You know, it's always been people who were out there. You know, they weren't out there flashy, but they were out there, and you would notice them.
Right. Their charisma kind of.
Yeah, my our mentor.
To the charisma.
That's right.
Yeah.
Our mentor used to tell us. He used to always say to me, he said, "You know what, Simmons? If a crowd, if there would be a crowd and you'd be that crowd and you could slow it down, people would say, there he is right there." And I couldn't figure out what he was talking about. And he was talking about that charisma and stuff that God had blessed me with.
Oh.
So.
Just, so you were chasing this kind of a dream, if you will. Like you had formulated this idea that you wanted. His friend Eddie called it the American dream. That's what he called the American dream. That's what he considered the American dream.
Yeah, he had 2-color TV, his own place, could have snorted any kind of dope he wanted to, and have all the women he needed.
Right.
And he called that the American dream, because that was a hustler's life.
Right.
To me, that was the American dream.
But it wasn't real.
No.
Just out of curiosity, like because these are your younger years, right? What happened that turned you into who you are today, Deacon Alfred Simmons?
I met my wife. When I got back home, after my apartment caught on fire, I went to Florida, and then later on something else happened. I forgot what that was, but I went into the military, and I didn't stay there because it wasn't what God had wanted me to do.
You're a veteran too?
No, I only stayed through boot camp, and I quit. Back then, it didn't matter whether you had a record or not, because they wanted people to come in.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that makes this place cool, is that I keep bumping into people who are vets who you wouldn't imagine.
But see, that's the thing about it. There's so many veterans here who are on the street.
Yeah, this is true.
You know,
this is true.
And I don't know they're veterans until I end up talking with some of them, because a lot of them be around where I live at, and we started talking, and I find out that they're vets, and they're out here on the street, you know. And
right. But for you, it didn't necessarily work out. Like, you gave it a shot.
Yes.
Wasn't really your thing.
No.
So.
But what happened when I got back here? I met my wife, and I had always liked my wife when we were children, but my wife wouldn't give me the time of day.
Right.
Because we were like different sides of the track all together. So I saw her one day, and I went to her, and I said, I hailed her. And she said, hello, and I said, are you married yet? And she said, no, what about you? I said, no, I'm waiting for you.
Okay.
And she said, really? I said, yeah. So I walked her home, and here it is. This year will be 34 years.
34 years married?
Yes.
You walked her home, and the rest is history.
Yes.
34 years going strong.
Yes. And
that's beautiful, dude.
The only bad part about that,
she
didn't have a husband.
Okay.
We were married, we lived together, we slept in the same bed.
Okay, I see.
But I was still doing what I did with other women until I really messed up bad. And my wife still said, you're my husband. And that's when I said, okay, Lord, that's it. And that's when I realized, like I said, he had told me that I was going to go and come back and go and come back. And here it is, the final round. And so when I did come back, I stopped everything that I was doing. I stopped smoking, drinking, stopped smoking, running behind women and cursing and all that kind of stuff, but I still wanted to drink. And he told me to quit. And I said, okay, Lord, when I get sick, I'll quit.
Right.
And so, like I was saying earlier,
but that was your, oh, hold on.
Yeah.
That was your loophole, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Go ahead.
Yeah. That was, I knew how much I could drink without getting sick.
Right.
So I figured if I drank a half pint, I'd be cool.
Right.
So I drank the half pint that morning, 9 o'clock when the liquor store opened. All day long, I was feeling good. I had food in my stomach. I had water in my stomach. I went to bed, and 2 o'clock that following morning, I was sick.
Sick as a dog.
Yes. And I ain't touched a drop of alcohol since.
Right.
Matter of fact, after that, it took about 5 years before I even drank cough medicine to have alcohol.
Really?
Yes.
So you had set the terms with the Almighty, thinking that you were going to get over.
Yes.
And he said, okay, these are your terms. Bam.
Yes.
And he hit you.
Yes. And so after that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
We didn't talk about this earlier, and if you're not comfortable talking about it, I can always edit it out or whatever. But had alcohol kind of been a problem for you?
Yeah, alcohol was a problem. Matter of fact, alcohol was the reason that I caused problems in my family. Mm-hmm. Because I mistreated my wife badly. And it was because I was drunk. Matter of fact, when we met, I wasn't drinking, but I was drinking. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't filthy drunk, but I was still getting drunk.
Right.
And so I went to my wife's house one morning, and I went there drunk to see how she would react. Mm-hmm. And no, it was the afternoon, because she let me go to sleep. Mm-hmm. And I woke up and I said, why you let me sleep with all my clothes on? She said, because that's how you went to sleep. And then we got into an argument, and she mugged me. And I mugged her back and pushed her face into the bed, and I always swore that I never hit a woman. Mm-hmm. And that's when I kind of like back off drinking, but I still drunk. Mm-hmm. And then I really messed up bad, and I knew it was time to stop. And so God told me, said, you got a choice. You either stop drinking or you die. Mm-hmm. And that's when I just put it point blank.
Yep.
I quit everything. And I said, whatever it is you want me to do, however it is you want me to do it, it's your will. And so I'm looking forward to that point now where I get to that point where that's all it is. No more this. Mm-hmm. Where I can, because I experienced it once before. When before I got married, I used to read my Bible and fast and pray all by myself. Mm-hmm. And I was talking with this guy who had, I knew him from running the street, and he started going to Holiness Church. Mm-hmm. And we were talking one day, and I looked down after we were talking about it, and he said, what's the matter? And I said, I couldn't feel my feet. I couldn't feel the ground. And he said, that's because you've been in the spirit. And so I got to that point where I was actually out of the flesh, but still there. Mm. I didn't feel no weight. And so when I got back here, I always looked for that to happen again.
Right.
But God really, he told me, he said, you don't need to go back there. I need you to grow within now. Mm-hmm. You know what it is to be doing that. Mm-hmm. You know what it is to be in the spirit. And in the times now when it happens, when I start talking and it's not me talking anymore, just the spirit talking,
right,
my body's light.
Start prophesying.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Sometimes you start speaking,
yes,
and it's like the joke, from the, yeah, there's a movie, I can't remember what it is. There's an actor named Will Ferrell. I don't know if you know who he is, but there's a movie where he's in a trivia or something like that, like a contest, mm-hmm, and academic contest, and he provides an answer for a question, mm-hmm, and he gives the answer, just spits it off, all the technical jargon and everything, mm-hmm, and then when he's done, and everybody's looking at him like, he goes, "What happened? I just blacked out," But it's the same thing. Sometimes you start talking from a place, and I've done it myself. For me personally, I'm either not at that point, or I just don't feel comfortable. I do know what it is to feel like you're speaking from a place and you don't know exactly where the words are coming from, but it just seems like you're saying the right things at the right time for the right person. And I think maybe we might have seen that just now. So I know what you're saying, and I think it especially happens when you're in the presence of another person who has those same feelings, and you connect with people when you make that connection on a spiritual level. So I really appreciate you sharing that. I'm sure that was not easy.
My name is Adam Williams. I'm from Manor, South Carolina, and my biggest piece of advice for someone is 100 years from now, no one's going to know your problem or even care about your problem. So you can only do what's best for you at the moment and enjoy life. And don't sweat the small stuff. That works too. Yeah.
Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Ian Braddock. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. If I could give anybody advice, kind of three big things I would say is do the things that other people don't want to do. Do the jobs that suck. Show up early and stay late. Make yourself a marketable person. My second thing would be, be a good man, be a good woman, have a good soul. That doesn't mean appease people. It means just be a good person to everybody you meet. My last thing is, be good to your family and friends. Take care of them. You might need them one day, and they might need you, and you're good to know that they have your back and you have theirs. So it's the best advice I could give somebody.
Right now, I don't have a problem sharing my past because of what we were saying earlier. The people out there that don't know what it is to come into church, or what it is to ask Christ to be the Savior, or accept Christ as the Savior, and people think that when you come to God, you got to automatically change your life. You got to walk the water. You got to speak all godly word all the time, and it's not that. And so, by me sharing what I came through, maybe somebody else could say, well, if God did it for him, he can do it for me, because God does not respect people.
Do you mind, you said God does not respect people?
No, he has he doesn't look at me no different than he does for you.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't look at a rich man no more than he does for a poor man. There's no respect of person in him.
Right. Do you mind sharing a story with us real quick? You talked to me about it earlier. Okay. You said there was a moment when you were sitting in this church. You walked into this church. You were. I don't think you were a member of the church. No. But you said you were sitting back there in that seat.
I was sitting about 4 seats back, and after service was over, pastor called for anybody who wanted to come up for prayer. I joined the church, and so I came up, and like I said before, pastor's a little short fella, and so
dynamite comes in small packages.
Yes, it does, extremely. And so he said, "What took you so long?" And I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "God told me you was coming. I'm asking you, what took you so long?" And right now, it's almost 7 years since I've been here. And the thing about that is, when I got in here, I felt comfortable. Like you said, when you walk in, you felt the presence.
You feel it.
And anytime anybody comes in here, if they know who God is, or if they had a touch with God, they know it when they get in here.
Right. I'm going to share these pictures on Instagram. I took some pictures of the church on the outside. Al, when I was looking for this place, I went right by it. I went right by it. And I went to the end of the street there, turned back around. I said, maybe it's the one that's on King Street, right? So I started to come back, and then out of nowhere, this place pops up on the right. I'm like, there it is. I was like, isn't that the coolest thing in the world?
Yes.
It's tucked away, but it's a small structure tucked away in a place where you wouldn't think you would find a church.
Yes.
But you walk in here and you feel full.
Yes.
It's like walking into a temple.
Yes.
From the outside it looks small and meek.
Yes.
But when you walk in, the space is huge.
Yes.
For the Doctor Who fans out there, it's like TARDIS. I think that's what they call it, the TARDIS or the TARDIS. I can't remember. I'm not a Doctor Who fan, but my kids are.
Okay, yeah.
On the outside is this small box.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But they walk in and it's just, that's how I felt. It's small and it's meek and it's modest on the outside.
Yes.
But when you walk into this place, it expands. It's full, and you just can't help but like be in this space.
Yes.
And you felt that.
Yep.
When you walked in 7 years ago.
Yes.
You allowed yourself to be blessed.
Yes.
And you've been here ever since.
Yes. And hopefully I'm blessing someone the way that I was blessed.
That's all we can hope for. Yes. That's all we can hope for. Yes. And you know, I think I was talking to you about this earlier, which is God works in mysterious ways.
Yes, He does. And
He works through people that you wouldn't expect to be working through.
Yes.
You get messages and you get, I say it that way. And there's going to be people on here that are just going to think it's all cockamamie, whatever. But this is what I believe. You got to, when you're present, the messages that you receive will come from the most abstract sources. You might get it at a sunrise.
I can give you an example.
Give it to me.
Like I said, my wife didn't have a husband. We were married, but I had hurt my wife and family real bad, and so I left and went to Jacksonville. And as soon as I got to Jacksonville, God started taking over. Because the place I wanted to go and stay at was a place where the cab driver he told me, and he took me to this hotel. Well, it was like kind of like a resident hotel. And he took me there and he said, this is where all the hustlers and stuff be at. I said, okay, take me over there. Because I'm like, okay, I'm back on track, right?
Right.
And so when I got there was a sign that said vacancy. But when I got to the door, the attendant said, we don't have any vacancy. And so I'm like, oh, man. So then the guy said, well, let me take you back across town, where he should have taken me from the start. When he took me there, the guy asked me if I was with a group. And I said, no, I'm by myself. How come? He said, because if you were with a group, I could have given you a discount. And God said, don't you do. Because I was getting ready to ask for the discount.
Yeah.
And so that morning, I got up that Saturday morning, and I walked around Jacksonville, and this is how Satan had it all laid out. I found out what a liquor store was. I bought a pint of liquor, and I came back home and drank that, and then I went back out, and I started looking for a soul food restaurant, started looking for the nightclub, I started looking for where I can find a job. I find all those things within the hour's period of time. But it wasn't for me. And that's when I knew. When I was coming back home, there was some guys standing out on the left side of the street when I was walking. And when I got closer to them, their eyes they had a fearful look on it. And I didn't know what it was. And that's when I realized that God was working. Because the pint of liquor that I had drunk, I didn't feel none of it. And so that Sunday morning I got up and I heard my wife crying. And the preacher got on TV and he started preaching about being home. Are you a good husband? Are you a good father? And he was talking directly to me. So I called my wife and I said, honey, how you been just crying? And she said, yeah. And I said, I'll be home tomorrow. And that's when it started going up. That's when God started guiding me. And it was still a struggle because I still had that nasty mentality.
Right.
You know, I still had that worldly mentality.
Right.
And so the thing that encouraged me best was when I was telling you how the pastor and the ministers of this church, when they give a message, they speak about themselves. And so they don't put themselves on a light where I ain't never done no wrong and I ain't never had no kind of past. So that encouraged me to let me know that if he's the pastor, he's been the pastor of this church, this year will be 20 years. And so if him being a pastor for 20 years and he's still struggling with his past, then that encouraged me. You know, because as long as we're in the flesh, we still gonna have worldly thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, but like I said earlier, God gives us free will, and He gave us that so that we can come to Him willingly. He's not gonna make us. You know, and so anybody who's going through something, it ain't gonna hurt to try.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
If you don't get nothing, you're right where you've been.
Yeah.
You don't lose nothing.
Yeah.
But if you do get something, think of where you can go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's kind of the point of this channel, Al, is faith, hope, and love.
yes,
Faith, hope, and love.
yes.
Without one,
That's
without
right.
one of them,
That's right.
you're
It's not-
lost.
That's right.
Right.
Because it's broken.
And I think a big thing that maybe our world might be missing is hope.
Yes, it is.
All right, so we had a little bit of technical difficulties. We're back online. Had to switch to the phone, but I'd like to go ahead and continue talking to you if I could, Al.
Okay.
Because I think we're on a pretty good roll, and there might have been other powers that were trying to put all this thing to a halt, but we ain't gonna let them do it.
No.
Okay. Okay. So, excuse me. Now you're a deacon in
Yes.
this church. Real quick, one quick fact. How old is the church?
In November, it'll be 102 years old.
102 years old.
Yes, 102. And the time that I've been here, we've had a lot of ups and downs, but we never gave up. And God is blessing now. And right now we're kind of like renovating the church ourselves. We're in the process of painting and getting new carpeting. And
Could you use some help, like funding wise?
sure.
Do you have? Is there a way to get money? Like if somebody wanted to write you a check or something like that?
Yeah,
Is
if
there
they
a way?
want to write a check, just address it to the church.
All right.
Write it out to the church, to Green Chapel Missionary Baptist Church.
Right. Oh,
And-
why don't we take a minute just to put that out there real quick? Why don't you?
Okay. We're in the process of renovating our church ourselves. We're painting and we're getting new carpeting, and we're just bringing it back to what it was. God's kept it this long. But if you want to help, our address is 36 Poinsett Street, Charleston, South Carolina. And the name of the church is Green Chapel Missionary Baptist Church. And you could just make the check, our money order out to Green Chapel Missionary Baptist Church. And hopefully when you're blessing us, God will bless you. And then hopefully you might come and visit. So that's what we really would like. Thanks.
I can't guarantee you that anybody's going to see that or that you're going to see anything come from that message, but
Yes.
I have faith that somebody will, and maybe you
Yes.
might get like a $5
Yes.
check or something like that.
Yes.
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 Every little bit helps.
Yes.
Al, I really appreciate you sitting down with me.
Before we go to any place else, what you just said about that just now, we had a friends and family night, and the two deacons, I was one and Deacon President was another one. Each of us had a $2,000 goal that we were trying to reach. And so that night, when my night was, we had a few people in here, and I started praying, Lord, please let this church get packed with people tonight, and I thank you for it. And a few people showed up. But then we went past 2,000. I think we got like 2,500 that night. And God said to me, I just wanted to show you what I can do. Because you weren't praying for people to come in here for me to have a relationship with them or for their soul. You were praying for reaching monetary value.
Right, yeah.
And it didn't happen.
Right.
But we reached our quota that night with the few people that he had in here. And that's when I knew that that soul comes first.
Yeah.
You know, so even if you don't contribute or if you can't contribute, come visit. Come visit.
Al, I am inspired, and I can't help but feel like what we did here is going to make a difference.
Amen.
There's no greater feeling than, for me at least personally, there's no greater feeling than making a difference in somebody else's life.
Yes.
And that's all I'm trying to do.
Yes.
But I know that I can't do it by myself.
That's right.
So through God's help and through the help of people that I sit down, regardless of their faith or denomination,
That's right.
their color, creed, or otherwise,
That's right.
all of us have a part to play, I think.
Yes.
In the healing of the world.
We do.
Right? And that might be a big thing right now.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm not trying to heal the world. I'm just trying to shed a little light in the lives of other people.
Yes.
But do you know who Randy Travis is, the singer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He has a song called Love's Alive and Well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lyric in there that says, I've seen one little candle keep away the darkness all by itself.
Yeah.
And that, we were talking about messages and how they come from different places.
Yes.
As soon as I heard that lyric, I'm like,
that's right. That's right.
And that's what I'm trying to do personally with this channel and through people like you is to show that it may seem like we're in a dark world and the dark is just kind of falling in on us and it's getting the best of everything and everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But here's one light, and hopefully through the lives of other people, here's another light.
That's
and
right.
Here's another light.
That's right.
And here's another light. The world is a lot brighter than we might think, and it's all around us. And I appreciate you sitting down with me.
Oh, glad to
Deacon
do it.
Simmons.
Thank
I appreciate
you for asking. Really, thank
I appreciate it. My spirit is full, bud. I walked in here and I knew that I just knew that this was going to go over well, and I think you've got a beautiful church.
Thank you.
I think you have a beautiful church.
God's kept us.
I think that I'm going to come to your service sometime in the future.
Amen.
I just want to see what, because I have walking into an empty church, you feel one way, and I can only imagine what it must be like to be in a full church.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And see, that's the thing that's what myself and others in here, come see for yourself. Yeah. That's always saying, just come see for yourself.
Yeah.
And once you get in here, then that's between you and God.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you come in expecting, you're going to receive what you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks,
buddy.
Thank you.
This has been This Way Out. I'm Miguel Mata and
Al Simmons.
Al Simmons, Deacon Simmons.
Yes.
And appreciate you tuning in. Yeah. Have a good day. God bless everybody.
God bless.